I shot a man last week. In the back. I miss it now. It was really interesting. Still, I'm not going to get depressed. You have to look to the future. To have something like that under your belt can be quite useful. You never know when you might be called on to repeat the experience. It wasn't in the line of duty. I wasn't a policewoman or someone who takes violence in their stride. It was with a harpoon gun, actually. And it definitely wasn't an accident. My decision to kill was arrived at only after a visible tussle with my conscience. I had to make it plain that once I pulled the trigger, things were never going to be the same again. This was a woman at the crossroads. It wasn't crossroads, of course. They don't shoot people in crossroads. At any rate, not with harpoon guns. If anybody did get shot, it would be with a weapon more suited to the motel ambiance. I have been in crossroads, though, actually. I was in an episode involving a forked lunch. At least I was told it was a forked lunch. The script said it was a finger buffet. I said to the floor manager, I said, Rex, are you on cans? Because I'd like some direction on this point. Are we toying or are we tucking in? He said, forget it, we're losing the food anyway. I was playing woman in a musquash coat, a guest at the wedding reception. I was scheduled just to be in that one episode. However, in my performance, I tried to suggest I'd taken a fancy to the hotel, in the hope that I'd catch the director's eye and he'd have me stay on after the forked lunch for the following episode, which involved a full-blown weekend. So I acted an interest in the soft furnishings, running my finger over the formica and admiring the carpet on the walls. Only Rex came over to me to say, they put me in a musquash coat to suggest I was a sophisticated woman. Could I try and look as if I was more at home in a 3-star motel? I wasn't at home in that sort of motel, I can tell you. Said to the man I'd been put next to, who I took to be my husband. I said, curtains in orange nylon and no placemats. Not even a veneer of civilization. He said, don't talk to me about orange nylon. I was on a jury once that sentenced Richard Attenborough to death. We'd been told to indulge in simulated cocktail chit-chat, so we weren't being unprofessional, talking. That is something I pride myself on, actually. I'm professional to my fingertips. Whatever it is I'm doing, even if it's just a walk-on, I must get involved, right up to the hilt. I can't help it. People who know me tell me I'm a very serious person. Only it's funny. I never get to do serious parts. The parts I get offered tend to be fun-loving girls who take life as it comes and aren't afraid of a good time should the opportunity arise type thing. I'd call them vivacious, if that didn't carry overtones of the outdoor life. In a nutshell, I play the kind of girl who's very much at home in a bar stool and who seldom has to light her own cigarette, which couldn't be more different from me, because for a start, I'm not a smoker. I can smoke if the part requires it. I'm a professional. You need as many strings to your bow as you can in this game. But having said that, I'm not a natural smoker. And what's more, I surprise my friends by not being much of a party-goer either. Rather curl up with a book, quite frankly. However, this particular party, I'd made an exception. Thing was, I'd met this ex-graphic designer who was quitting the rat race and going off to Zimbabwe. He was having a little farewell do in the flat of an air hostess friend of his in Mitcham. Would I go? I thought, well, it's not every day you get somebody going off to Zimbabwe, so I said yes. And I'm glad I did, because that's how I got the audition. Now, my hobby is people. I collect people. So when I saw this interesting-looking man in the corner, next thing is, I find myself talking to him. I said, you look an interesting person. I'm interested in interesting people. Hello? He said, hello. I said, what do you do? He said, I'm in films. I said, oh, that's interesting. Anything in the pipeline? He said, as a matter of fact, yes. And he starts telling me about this project he's involved in, making videos for the overseas market, targeted chiefly on West Germany. I said, you the producer? He said, no, but I'm on the production side. The name's Spud. I said, Spud? That's an interesting name. Mine's Leslie. He said, as it happens, Leslie, we've got a problem at the moment. Our main girls had to drop out because of acts packed in. Are you an actress? I said, well, Spud, it's interesting you should ask, because as a matter of fact, I am. He said, will you excuse me one moment, Leslie? I said, why, Spud, where are you going? He said, I'm going to go away and make one phone call. It transpires the director's seeing possible replacements the very next day at an address in West London. Spud said, it's interesting because I'm based in Ealing. I said, isn't that West London? He said, it is. Where's your stamping ground? I said, Bromley for my sins. He said, that's a farish cry. Why not bed down at my place? I said, thank you, kind sir, but I didn't fall off the Christmas tree yesterday. He said, Leslie, I've got a son studying hotel management and a daughter with one kidney. Besides, I've got my sister-in-law staying. She's come up for the Ideal Home exhibition. Penny began to drop when I saw the tattoo. My experience of tattoos is that they're generally confined to the lower echelons, and when I saw his vest, it had electrician written all over it. Never even saw the sister-in-law. Still traipsing round Olympia, probably. I know something about personality. There's a chapter about it in this book I'm reading. It's by an American. They're the experts, where personality is concerned, the Americans. They've got it down to a fine art. It's very big on interviews, so I was able to test it down. The director's not very old. Blue suit, tie loose, sleeves turned back. I put him down as a university type. Said his name was Simon, which I instantly committed to memory, because that's one of the points in the book. Purpose and use of name. He said, forgive this crazy time. I said, sorry, Simon. He said, like 9:30 in the morning. I said, Simon, the day begins when the day begins. You're the director. He said, yes, well, can you tell me what you've done? I said, where you may have seen me, Simon, is in Tess, Roman Polanski. I played Chloe. I don't remember her, he said. Is she in the book? I said, book? This is Tess, Simon. Roman Polanski. Chloe was the one on the back of the farm cart wearing a shawl. The shawl was original 19th century embroidery, all hand done. Do you know Roman, Simon? He said, not personally, no. I said, physically, he's quite small, but we had a very good working relationship, very open. He said that was good, because Travis in the film was very open. I said, Travis? It's an interesting name, Simon. He said, yes, she's an interesting character. She spends most of the film on the deck of a yacht. I said, yacht? That's interesting, Simon. My brother-in-law's got a small powerboat berthed at Ipswich. He said, well, snap. I said, yes, small world. He said, in an ideal world, Leslie, I'd be happy to sit chatting all day, but I've a pretty tight schedule. And although I know it's only 9:30 in the morning, could I see you in your bra and panties? I said, 9:30 in the morning, 10:30 at night. We're both professionals, Simon. Only could we just put another bar on? Because if we don't, you won't be able to tell my tits from goose pimples. He had to smile. That's another of the sections in the personality book. Humour. Usefulness of in breaking the ice. When I got my things off, he said, well, you've passed the physical, now the oral. Do you play chess? I said, chess, Simon? Do you mean the musical? He said, no, the game. I said, as a matter of fact, Simon, I don't. Is that a problem? He said, not if you water ski. Travis is fundamentally an outdoor girl, but we thought it'd be fun to make her an intellectual on the side. I said, well, Simon, I'm happy to learn both chess and water skiing, but could I make a suggestion? Reading generally indicates a studious temperament, and I'm a very convincing reader, because it's something I frequently do in real life. I could tell he was impressed. So I said, another suggestion I could make would be to kit Travis out with some glasses. Spectacles, Simon. These days they're not unbecoming. And put Travis in spectacles with something in paperback. That says it all. He said, you've been most helpful. I said, the paperback could be something about the environment. Or, if you want to maintain the water skiing theme, something about water skiing and the environment, possibly. I mean, Lake Windermere. He was showing me out by this time, but I said, one last thought, Simon, and that is a briefcase. Put Travis in a bikini and give her a briefcase and you've got the best of every possible world. He said, I'm most grateful. You've given me lots of ideas. I said, goodbye, Simon. I hope we can work together. The drill for saying goodbye is you take the person's hand, put your other hand over theirs, clasping it warmly, while at the same time looking into their eyes, smiling and reiterating their name. This lodges you in the mind, apparently. So I did all that, only going downstairs I had another thought, so I popped back. He was on the phone. You won't believe this, he was saying. I said, Simon, don't hang up. Only I just wanted to make it crystal clear that when I said briefcase, I didn't mean the old-fashioned type ones. There are new briefcases you can get now, which open up and turn into a mini writing desk. Being an up-to-the-minute girl, that is probably the type of briefcase Travis would have. She could be sitting in a wet bikini with a briefcase open on her knee. Never seen that on screen. So to be some kind of first. Ciao, Simon. Take care. That was last Friday. The book's got charts where you can check your interview score. Mine was 75. Very good to excellent. Actually, I'm surprised they haven't telephoned. You'd never think this frock wasn't made for me. I said to Scott, whose wardrobe, she must be my double. He said, no, you're hers, the stupid cow. Talk about last minute, though. 11 o'clock Tuesday night, I'm just wondering about having a run round with the dustette. 6 o'clock the next morning, I'm sitting in Leon Solent in makeup. When the phone went telling me I'd got the part, I assumed it was Simon. So I said, hello, Simon. He said, try Nigel. I said, well, Nigel, can you tell Simon I've not let the grass grow under my feet? I now play a rudimentary game of chess. He said, I don't care if you play a championship game of ice hockey, just don't get pregnant. It transpires that the girl they'd slated to do the part had been living with a racing driver and, of course, the inevitable happened. Kiddie on the way. So my name was next out of the hat. I said to Scott, I know why. It's because they knew I had ideas about the part. He said it's because they knew he had a 38-inch bust. His mother's confined to a wheelchair. He's got a lot on his plate. Anyway, I'm ready. I've been ready since yesterday morning. It was long enough before anyone came near. I had a bacon sandwich, which Scott went and fetched for me while I was under the dryer. I said, wasn't there a croissant? He said, in Leon Solent. I said, on Tess, there were croissants. On Tess, there was filter coffee. There was also some liaison. I wanted to talk to somebody about the part. Tony Scott said they were all out in a speedboat doing mute shots of the coastline. On Tess, you were never sitting about. Roman anticipated every eventuality. We were filming in the middle of the forest once, and the toilet arrangements were immaculate. There was even provision for a calorie-controlled diet. I said to Scott, I'm not used to working like this. He said, let's face it, dear, you're not used to working. Why didn't you bring your knitting? I said, I do not knit, Scott. He said, well, file your nails then. Pluck an eyebrow. Be like me. Do something constructive. He's as thin as a rail and apparently an accomplished pianist. Seems to be makeup as well as wardrobe. On Tess, we had 3 caravans for makeup alone. Eventually, Simon puts his head round the door. I said, hello, Simon. Long time no see. Did Nigel tell you I'd learned chess? He said, chess? Aren't you the one who can water ski? I said, no. He said, bugger, and disappeared. I said to Scott, Simon's on the young side for a director. He said, director? He couldn't direct you to the end of the street. He just does all the running about. I said, who is the director? He said, Gunter. I said, Gunter? That sounds a continental name. He said, yes, German. I said, oh, that's interesting. I went to Germany once, Dusseldorf. He said, oh, well, you'll have a lot to talk about then. I have a feeling Scott may be gay. Normally I like them, but I think he's one of the ones that's turned bitter. I was still waiting to be used in the afternoon, which is when they did the water skiing. Some girl from the local sub-aqua did it. She works part-time in the quayside restaurant where they all ate last night, apparently. I met her when she came in for makeup. Pleasant enough, but didn't look a bit like me. I'm quite petite, and she was on the large side. And whereas my hair is auburn, hers was definitely ginger. I didn't say anything to her at the time, but I thought, she's supposed to be me. They're going to be into big continuity problems. So I thought I'd go in quest of the director and say. There was nobody about on the yacht, just a man who was dusting the camera. He said not to worry. The shot was POV water skis. We'd only be seeing her elbow. I said, would that work? He said, yes, you know cinema, the magic of. Mind you, he said, if it was up to him personally, he'd rather see my elbow than hers any day. His name was Terry. What was mine? I said, it's a relief to find someone civil. He said, it's the usual story, Leslie. Art comes in the door, manners go out the window. Why was making a film like being a mushroom? I said, why, Terry? He said, because they keep you in the dark, and every now and again, someone comes in and throws a bucket of shit over you. He laughed. I said, that's interesting, only Terry, they don't grow mushrooms like that now. It's all industrialised. He said, you sound a cultured person. What say we spend an evening exploring the delights of Leon Solent? His room's nicer than mine. Bathroom's got a hairdryer. Please don't misunderstand me. I've no objection to taking my top off, but Travis, as I was playing her, wasn't the kind of girl who would take her top off. I said, I'm a professional, Nigel. Credit me with a little experience. It isn't Travis. I'd been sitting on the deck of the yacht all day as background, while these two older men had what I presumed was a business discussion. One of them, who was covered in hair and had a real weight problem, was my boyfriend, apparently. You knew he was my boyfriend because at an earlier juncture you'd seen him hit me across the face. Travis is supposed to be a good time girl, though you never actually see me having a good time, just sat on a freezing cold deck plastering on the suntan lotion. I said to Nigel, I don't know whether the cameraman spotted it, but would I be sunbathing? There's no sun. Nigel said, no sun is favourite. Nigel's first assistant. Here, there and everywhere. Gunter never speaks. Not to me, anyway. Just stands behind the camera with a little cap on. Not a patch on Roman. Roman had a smile for everybody. Anyway, I'm sitting there as background, and I say to Nigel, Nigel, am I right in thinking I'm a denizen of the cocktail belt? He said, why? A bit guardedly. I said, because to me, that implies a cigarette holder. And I produced quite a modest one I happened to have brought with me. He went and spoke to Gunter, only Gunter ruled there was to be no smoking. I said, on the grounds of health. Nigel said no, on the grounds of making continuity a bugger. I'd also brought a paperback with me, just to make it easier for props, which seemed to be Scott again. Only I'd hardly got it open when Nigel relieves me of it and says, we're going for the suntan lotion. I said, Nigel, I don't think the two are incompatible. I mean, I can apply suntan lotion and read at the same time. That is what professionalism means. Checked with Gunter again, came back and said, forget the book. Suntan lotion is favourite. I said, can I ask you something else? He said, go on. I said, what is my boyfriend discussing? He said, business. I said, Nigel, would I be right in thinking it's a drugs deal? He said, does it matter? I said, it matters to me. It matters to Travis. It helps my character. He said, what would help your character is if you took your bikini top off. I said, Nigel, would Travis do that? We know she plays chess. She also reads. Is Travis the type to go topless? He said, listen, who do you think you're playing? Emily Bronte. Gunter wants to see your knockers. I didn't even look at him. I just took my top off without a word and applied suntan lotion with all the contempt I could muster. They did a shot. And then Nigel came over and said, Gunter liked that. And if I could give him a whisker more sensuality, it might be worth a close-up. So, we did it again. Then Nigel came over and said, Gunter liked what I was giving him, only in the next shot would a slip out of my bikini bottom. I said, Nigel, trust me, Travis would not do that. Talks to Gunter, comes back. Gunter agrees with me. The real Travis wouldn't. But by displaying herself naked before her boyfriend's business associate, she's showing her contempt for his whole way of life. I said, Nigel, at last Gunter's giving me something I can relate to. He said, right, let's shoot it, elbow the bikini bottom. We wrapped about 6. That's film parlance for packed up. I said to Nigel, did I give Gunter what he wanted? Was he happy? He said, Leslie, Gunter is an artist. He's never happy. But as he said to me this afternoon, at last we're cooking with gas. I said, does that mean it's good? He said, yes. I said, oh, I prefer electricity. When you finished a shot on a film, you have to wait and see if there's what they call a hair in the gate. It's film parlance for the all clear. Thank God there wasn't, because I wouldn't have been able to do it again. I created Travis, and though it was her lover that got shot, I felt it was something in me that was Travis that had died. My lover's name turned out to be Alfredo. That was my big line. Alfredo. He was the head of some sort of crime syndicate, only everybody in the yachting fraternity thought he was very respectable and to do with the building trade. One night, while me and Alfredo were ashore at a building federation dinner and dance, this young undercover policeman swims out to the yacht to search it in his underpants. However, as luck would have it, Travis has a headache, so she and Alfredo return early from this ultra-respectable function, with Alfredo in a towering rage. Originally, I was down to say, I can't help it, Alfredo. I've got a headache. And we tried this once or twice, only then Gunter thought that it would be more convincing if my headache was so bad I couldn't even speak. And Alfredo just said, you and your headaches. I said, if it was a migraine rather than a headache, Travis probably wouldn't be able to speak. He said, whatever you say. It's wonderful, that moment, when you feel a director first begin to trust you and you can really start to build. Anyway, Travis and Alfredo come into the cabin where they find this young policeman behind the sofa in his underpants. And Alfredo takes out his gun and says how lucky lovely Travis had a headache and we had to leave our glittering reception. I was cross with her then, but now my mood has changed. Offer the gentleman a drink, Travis. Then go and take your clothes off. There's nothing I like better than making love after killing a policeman. I then retire to the next cabin, while Alfredo taunts this bare young policeman and says he's going to kill him. Only before he does so, he tells him all about his drug smuggling operation in every detail, the way criminals tend to the minute they've got somebody at gunpoint. When Travis comes back with no clothes on, the policeman's talking about the evil drugs do, all the young lives ruined and so on. Only I forgot to say that earlier there'd been some dialogue, while I was supposed to be out snorkeling, about how Travis has a little brother, Craig, and how he'd got himself hooked on drugs, and how I was heartbroken and determined to revenge myself on the culprits should I ever come across them. So when the policeman's saying all this about the horror of drugs, you can see it comes as a revelation to Travis that her lover's involved in drugs. She just thinks it's been ordinary crime and stealing electrical goods. And so, very quietly, almost pensively, Gunter said, Travis picks up this underwater spear gun that happens to be on the sideboard. Nigel came over at this point and said, ideally, Gunter would like to see a variety of emotions chase themselves across Travis's face as her affection for her lover, Alfredo, fights with the demands of her conscience and the memories of her little brother, Craig. You see my lover's fat finger tighten on the trigger as he gets ready to kill the policeman. Only just then, very quietly, I say his name. Alfredo. He spins round. Travis fires the harpoon, and you see the spear come out of his back, killing him, and also ruining his dinner jacket. They then follow this with a big close-up with blood and everything, and me, with a single tear, rolling down my cheek. We did this in one take, which Nigel says is almost unique in the annals of filming. Only Scott had to chip in. Good job, because having only one dinner jacket was fairly unique as well. I couldn't have done it again anyway. I got nothing left. Only I suddenly had a flash of inspiration, the way you do when you've been to the end of the world and back. And I said to Nigel, don't you think that Travis, drained of all emotion by the death of a lover, would cling on to this young policeman whose life she's just saved, and that they would celebrate his deliverance by having sexual intercourse there and then? Big debate. Gunter really liked it, only the actor playing the policeman wasn't keen. I think he may have been gay too. He had a moustache. Eventually, Nigel came over and said favourite was for the policeman to look as though he was considering having sexual intercourse, and for him to run his hand speculatively over Travis's private parts. Only then, pity drives out lust, and instead he covers her nakedness with an oriental-type dressing gown, the property of her dead lover. Only even at this late stage, you can tell he hasn't ruled out the possibility, because as he's fastening the dressing gown, his fingers linger over Travis's nipples. Afterwards, Gunter explained that had there been any proper funny business at this point, it would have detracted from the final scene, when, after all the excitement, the young policeman goes home to his regular girlfriend, who cooks him a hot snack, and who's a librarian. The message being that sexual intercourse is much better with somebody you're in love with, even if they are a bit homely and they work in the county library, rather than somebody like Travis, who's just out for a good time. As Gunter said that night, it's a very moral film. Tragedy is, people won't see it. I said, it's interesting, but I saw it like that right from the start. When we were in bed, I said, if only we could have done this before. Gunter said, Leslie, I make it a rule never to lay a finger on an actress until the whole thing's in the can. I said, Gunter, there's no need to explain. We're both professionals. Only Gunter, I said, can I ask you one question? Was I Travis? Were you pleased with my performance? He said, Leslie, if someone's a bad actress, I can't sleep with her. So don't ask me if I was pleased with your performance. This is the proof. He's a real artist, Gunter. When I woke up in the morning, he'd gone. I wandered down for some coffee, but there was no one from the unit about. I wanted to say goodbye to everybody, but they were all out doing establishing shots of the marina. So I bought a postcard with a sinking ship on it and put, "Goodbye, gang. See you at the premiere," and left it at the desk. When I was leaving with my bags, Scott was loading up the laundry. I said, "Ciao, Scott. Been a pleasure working with you." He said, "You win some, you lose some." I said, "Now it's back to real life." He said, "Some of us never left it." Funny the way the clothes are always too small. Film's coming out in West Germany, initially. Then Turkey, possibly. Gunther says it'll make me quite famous. Well, I'm a professional. I shall have to live with that. Only I'm not just going to sit here waiting for the phone to ring. No fear. I'm going to use this time to acquire another skill. Spoken Italian. Telling valuable oil paintings. Canoeing. You see, the more you have to offer as a person, the better you are as an actress. Acting's really just giving.